Hello, everyone. I want to talk about a YouTube user who I don't believe he's a fraud. I don't believe he's a scammer. And in addition to that, he has been making a lot of predictions that have been wrong. But what I believe is that he's strongly being misled. And this individual that I want to talk about is Elijah Johnson. Elijah Johnson, if you've known, he has been running his YouTube channel for a little over a year. And he's this so-called 17-year-old young guy who has been homeschooled from Ohio, and he's been constantly interviewing people about precious metals. The dollar is going to collapse. The system is untrustworthy. And in addition to that, he's been going on to the liberty movement. Well, I have to say is that, first of all, I appreciate the fact that you're interested in something that a lot of people around your age isn't into a lot. But I have to tell you something, sir. The fact of the matter is, I feel that you're largely being misled, and the direction that you're going is going to bring in a lot of traps, and there's a good chance that you're probably going to end in a disaster. Because the fact of the matter is the people that you're interviewing are just a bunch of shills, salesperson, who are basically designed to promote and pump the precious metals industry. They're there to basically mislead the people that the dollar's going to collapse, the dollar's going to collapse, dollar's going to collapse, all fiat currencies are worthless, get out of paper. It doesn't matter what equity it is, not even if it's ETFs. Just get out of paper and get vast majority of your assets into precious metals. People, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but from a lot of these people that he's interviewed, you do not, and you should not, usually follow advice and recommendations from. And this is what this guy really doesn't understand. He thinks that just because he is getting this information, he thinks that he is very special. And of course, he gets a lot of praising, a lot of appreciation from his users. You know, they really, as if they worship him like he's some sort of jewel. Like, oh, look at this here. He's so smart. He's been homeschooled. And the reality is, he has been misled. And I got to tell you something. I think outside the box, I believe more than he does. And I have not been homeschooled. And what part of it about him that he's so smart? I mean, I just want to know. I mean, yes, he's getting a few things. Yes, he's getting to investing. And maybe he's getting some experience. But the fact of the matter is, he's not going on the right track. So anyway, he thinks that because he has listened to some Mike Maloney clips, and that's where he claims to get a lot of his information from, that he's bright and he's somehow found a new shine of opportunity, as if he is secretly chosen, that he's going to have the right path to success. Now let me show him about what he's have been trying to get involved in.
It's my first time speaking publicly at a conference, national conference, and especially I want to give thanks to all of you guys here. It's really a pleasure to see all of you really concerned about our liberty and
Well,
quote the current.
first of all, I have to say something. First of all, I admire the fact that he's quite mature. But the other thing that he has been stretching out is the liberty movement. And the liberty movement has a lot of controversies. It has a lot of criticism. And in addition to that, in many ways it's corrupt and funded by a lot of interests that are responsible for a lot of the corruption and the insanity that's going along with our society. Now, you don't hear me and this channel speak a lot about these things, certainly, but from my research, I will tell you that the liberty movement isn't a reliable movement. as a matter of fact. And yes, I do believe in it, but the certain movement that he's talking about along the people that he supports are very controversial. So basically, he's just kind of buying and fitting along with the so-called mainstream community. He doesn't do a lot of outside research. And certainly, I've been telling you this for years. Do some outside research. I certainly have been doing some outside research myself, in addition with along with my ideas.
The goal of the current education system is not, quote, to fulfill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence. Nothing could be further from the truth. The aim is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. That is its aim in the United States, and that is its aim everywhere else. End quote. As John Taylor Gatto,
Okay, first of all, yes, there are problems with the education system. And you say that it's being set up in a way that it's indoctrinating. Well, the fact of the matter is, you're giving a lot of partial truth. And one of the things is that the problem of the education system, it's not about just indoctrinating, is that it's dysfunctional. The students are merely interested in passing the grade, getting the college degree, because it's a so-called requirement for the real world. In addition to that you have to understand that the learning styles of the school is quite limited. In other words, if you're a visual or you like to draw things, if you like to talk, you like to do a lot of in-class projects, usually the system may not work for you. And so what you have to understand is that that's why it's dysfunctional. And the people that do succeed, who get straight A's and get that college degree, aren't necessarily the ones that are intelligent. So our society has been misled. Now, certainly, it doesn't look like that you talk about that. You just talk about it's being indoctrinated. It seems like you've kind of borrowed that line from Alex Jones or a lot of these other people like George Noory, even SGT Bull, which are really just part of this whole propagandist machine. So let's just go on.
educational activist and New York State Teacher of the Year, points out, public schools school children, not truly educate them. As he said in his book, Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Education, he states, quote, I've noticed a fascinating phenomenon in my 30 years of teaching. Schools and schooling are increasingly irrelevant to the great enterprises of the planet. No one believes anymore that scientists are trained in science classes, or politicians in civics classes, or poets in English classes. The institution is psychopathic. It has no conscience. It rings a bell, and a young man in the middle of writing a poem must close his notebook and move to a different cell where he must memorize that humans and monkeys derive from a common ancestor. End quote. As you may know, I, as a homeschooler spending minimal time in public education, have been able to escape most of this input-output, one-size-fits-all style of learning. Instead of rushing me from one subject to the next at the ring of a...
Well, first of all, yes, you do make a good point, but again, a lot of the facts and information you're getting is simply borrowed and used from the people that you interview, along with a lot of the things that's been happening in the YouTube community. So, just like the education system, you're still borrowing, copying, and pasting it in your brain. So, just because you may sound differently like a lot of other people doesn't necessarily mean that you're on the right track. Now, let's just look into a lot of his other clips. Let's see if I can find about his gold and silver forecasts.
Being about Yellowstone National Park or the Badlands, my family and I ventured from Minnesota and finally, various topics of debate have caught my interest, such as global warming, evolution versus creationism, or whether the Federal Reserve is good for our economy. I've found people on either sides of these controversial issues.
Well, again, I understand that there's a lot of things about the system along the way the U.S. currency is involved. It's very dysfunctional. But I will tell you this. Certainly, the information that you're getting from Alex Jones, along with a lot of media outlets, aren't the reliable source. Okay? And certainly, if I were to decide to listen between the guest that you interview and Ben Bernanke, it would be neither of them. Because all of you are spreading lots of propaganda. And the fact of the matter is that just because they expose the Federal Reserve, it doesn't mean that they really expose the truth or they're exposing in a way that's going to help you. They're doing this because certainly I think a lot of these people are in the bed with the Federal Reserve, and they're doing this largely because they wanted to benefit their precious metal sales. So really, I think you need to do some outside research, sir. Now, as far as I want to tell you, let me tell you something, Elijah. Since you've started about a year ago, the precious metals prices has fallen. They have fallen. And since that time, you have hardly made a video about your analysis, your charts, your research. I have done that, okay? I'm just a few years older than you, sir, and I've done a lot of research. I do investigation. I don't just copy and just paste something from Greg Mannarino or BrotherJohnF or Mike Maloney and just insert it in my brain. And not just those people, but even those CNBC, Wall Street Journal gurus who are also full of trash. I try to stay away from those. I mean, just to let you know, by the way, Doug Cass, he's not a precious metals bull, and he just recently stated that the market is making a top. And based on his track record as a typical CNBC guru, I usually believe that a lot of the things he says is full of trash. So, I'm just telling you, sir, precious metals have fallen. I think it's about time for you to wake up and realize that you probably have been misled. You may need to think outside the box, stretch into other assets. But I don't know, because you see, the mindset with you and along with a lot of your followers is that all the fiat currencies are going to collapse. The dollar is going to do the worst, even worse than the euro. Get out of stocks, get out of paper, stay into precious metals. And if it's going down, it's because idiots are selling. There's manipulation. Well, I'm going to tell you something. There is manipulation. And the manipulation was a pump and dump scheme. And the manipulation isn't really the manipulation that you normally might hear from SGT Bull, whether it's a lot of these other guests that you continue to interview. So I'm going to tell you something, Elijah, and I'm going to really kind of tell this to my listeners. If you want somebody who's bright and young, and I don't mean to put you down, I'm just here to expose the truth. But if you want someone who's bright, okay, isn't it better to follow somebody who has his own ideas that is a lot more unique and has actually ideas that's not following and copying and pasting somebody that even the mainstream established media has talked about several times? You know what I want to do, certainly? See, you're wanting to advance the liberty movement, which is very controversial. What I want to do is I want to do my own research, which I'm largely into equities, and create a Metropolis extension. Of course, many of you know what that is. It's a renaissance along with a boycott movement to create a series of towns, urban center, neighborhoods where trade, living, transportation, education will be different. That's the kind of vision that I want to promote. Now, many of you out there are telling me, oh no, that's a horrible idea in this economy. Nobody's going to move into that development. Nobody wants to live in the Las Vegas metropolitan area. It's a loser place. Let me tell you something. I have a vision, I have a plan, and I have something that's distinct of me. And at least I'm trying, ladies and gentlemen. So I can tell you something, Elijah. I think it's about time for maybe you to stretch your hands a little bit and get some experience in equities. Because I admit, when I was bullish in precious metals a long time ago, I would strongly talk about equities. First Majestic Silver. First Majestic Silver outperformed silver in the past 3 months, or didn't do so terribly. First Majestic Silver didn't do so terribly, and I think it outperformed silver year to date. Maybe you should stretch out a little bit. Maybe you should get into more equities. Maybe learn about price earnings ratio, moving averages, relative strength indicator. Now you're 17. Legally, you're not old enough to hold, trade, or buy securities. But I would at least start a practice account because I'm telling you, Elijah, you're not supposed to follow advice from salesperson, people who are shills who are designed to pump up the precious metals industry. Because I got to tell you something. One day you're going to wake up and there's a good possibility that you're going to see gold at 1,000, Dow Jones at 20,000, the US dollar index at 70 to 90, and the Nasdaq reaching 4 to 5,000, possibly hitting new highs. What are you going to do, Elijah? Are you going to keep interviewing these people? Are you going to continue to promote these kinds of individuals? Are you going to have the guts to even talk to these people? I mean, I don't know about you. I'm just advising you, sir. You might even get so embarrassed that you probably want to close your YouTube channel. Because let me tell you something about myself, Elijah. I don't just talk about the financial markets. My channel is Cyrus992. It's a diversified aspects of society, of interests. Maybe you should stretch out too. So mark my words, Elijah, and everybody out there. What direction is he going and what direction is he taking you? And based on the guests that he's interviewed, along with their track records and along with their backgrounds, I mean, who are these people that they're interviewing? These are people who are complete losers, probably, that they couldn't make it in Wall Street, that they're unlicensed. Wake up, people! Look, anyway, I don't have enough time. I'm sorry if I'm giving you a hard time, but I'm doing this for the good for all of you. So stand up with me, and I will have a lot more clips in the weeks and months to come. Thank you so much.